Hi, and welcome back to Self Love Week. I'm Kirsten Smith, and my business Shine exists to help busy working women just like you to relax, take time out, and learn tools to manage stress and overwhelm. I do that via one to one coaching and also via transformational retreats. This week, I'm bringing you free video masterclasses to help you to shine. And at the end of it, I'm going to go live on Instagram to announce the winner of my day retreat competition. So make sure you're following me at Shine On Tribe. When I announced I was doing another self love week, I asked my Instagram followers to tell me which topics they want to hear about. And sadly, this one was really popular. It's anxiety. Anxiety can get way out of control, making day to day tasks unmanageable, leaving you fearful, sad, overwhelmed, and anxious. I must state if you suffer with anxiety and it's something that's concerning you and it's not just occasional, it is worth seeking medical advice. I'm not a doctor and I want to make sure you have the right care. It's also one of the top symptoms of perimenopause. So if you think you might be perimenopausal, get some help, be it from your GP or another source. Through these first few years of my perimenopause, I've been working with an amazing natural women's health expert, Gemma Barry of the Well Woman Project. And very luckily for you, she's going to be my guest right here tomorrow for a chat about periods and perimenopause. And she's also doing a talk at my winter retreat. So, as ever with these talks, I'm coming at it from a personal development and spiritual perspective. So, I'm bringing you my own experiences and perspectives and the things that have worked really, really well for me. I've suffered with anxious periods through much of my life, and recently it's been harder than ever to shake. For example, after losing my dad last year, I spent about 6 months waking up every single day with anxiety. But thanks to that, I have a bunch of tools in my armory that I wanted to share with you. So, with all of that said, here is my take. Anxiety is there to tell us something. The message is something isn't right. This is coming from a primal part of the brain, which is responsible for sensing danger. That primal part of the brain is there for a reason, to protect us and for us to sense dangers like tigers coming to eat us. Now, the world has evolved, but that primal part of the brain is still there. And that 24/7 requirement we have to be on and constantly being flooded with information is going to have us constantly scanning for danger. We can get stuck in this fight, flight, or freeze state, which was really useful if the tiger was trying to attack us. And it's also useful in sensing danger, but it's not so useful if all you're trying to do is drive to work. So, the first thing I'd say is remember this is such a normal and natural experience. It's a natural emotion that happens to everybody, but sometimes you just need a little bit of help with it, right? But we can beat ourselves up for it. We see it as silly, we see it as, I'm being ridiculous, and that can make you feel even more anxious. So, the first thing I want you to do is give yourself grace. This is a normal and natural experience. I personally try to deal with anxiety by calming my nervous system. Not to go too deep on the topic, but the nervous system has two sides, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. The parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. So we rest, we heal, we digest food. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight side. So if you're constantly stuck in fight or flight, this is suppressing the function of the parasympathetic nervous system. So when the parasympathetic nervous system isn't activated, it can be really hard to digest food. For example, when you're stressed. So have you ever noticed that? Personally, I have a couple of food intolerances, and I find that when I'm stressed, they are greatly exacerbated. And that's the reason why. So finding this out was such a game changer for me. And I began to focus on techniques to bring my parasympathetic nervous system into better working order. So here we're thinking about the things that are helping you to rest. Some of these things are actually extremely obvious, but if you're not doing them daily or checking in with yourself on a regular basis to see how stressed you're feeling and actively taking the time to calm yourself, you're going to be spending more time in fight, flight, or freeze and less time in rest and digest. So finding activities that calm and ground you is going to be different for everybody. But so, for example, for me, it's deep baths by candlelight, it's grounding smells, those things that I can do easily on a daily basis. I like to burn sage or incense, or also I have essential oils that I use, and they just really kind of bring me back to grounding. Also, breathing techniques. And if you have a look on my YouTube, you'll find some of my best breathing techniques, which I shared as part of my last Self Love Week. Talking and connection with others can be huge in reducing anxiety. As someone who lives alone a lot of the time, this is a big one for me. I can sometimes go for days without speaking to anyone. So I actually have to make sure actively on a weekly basis that I'm finding people to talk to about how I'm feeling. So this isn't just about seeing people, it's about people that you can really open up to. Connection is key. So if you don't have people in your life you can talk to, work on finding some. Online communities, therapists, a coach. I'm lucky enough to have all three. And I'm also lucky enough to have some amazing friends and a supportive partner. But I haven't always had that. And so it's really about taking steps to build and form those relationships and actually get rid of the ones that aren't serving you. Journaling. So if you've never tried journaling before, I urge you to try it. I do guided journaling at all my retreats. If you want to try it before then, here are some tips. You can free journal, that's sometimes known as morning pages, and this is where you allocate time every morning. And I know mornings are hectic, to just write whatever is in your head. It's a really great way to clear your brain for the day, even if you can only spend a couple of minutes doing it. So also guided journaling. As I mentioned, I do this on my retreats and mini retreats. I give clients specific questions to journal on, and I also have some PDFs coming, which will be available as free downloads. But in the meantime, if you want some guided journaling questions on anxiety, drop me a message. Another form of journaling I love for anxiety is the worry list, and this one's particularly good when you're feeling totally overwhelmed. So this is where I write down all the things that are on my mind, and then I go through each one of them, and I try to look at each worry and I think, can I do something about this? If it's something I can do something about, great. I can prepare for it. I can put in my diary, whatever it might be, I prepare for it. If it's something I can't do anything about, then I try to work it through, maybe with a little bit of free journaling, and then taking some massive breaths and trying to actually physically visualize getting rid of this worry. Of course, it's not quite as simple as that, but the more you can practice those kinds of things, the more you get used to letting those worries go, particularly if they're sort of irrational things that you're worrying about that you can't change. So, 3 things that we know are also likely to really help our overall health, not just anxiety: what we eat, if we exercise, and how we sleep. So with food, of course, it's lots of protein, fresh veg, and any supplements that can help with anxiety. So again, I would take medical advice on this before starting anything, but I do know of a really great supplement by Will Powders, which is called Calm. I'm going to pop the details in a link below, but it works wonders. It's totally natural and it's a harmless supplement. And it's not something, that you can get addicted to or that's going to kind of cause you any issues. But of course, just check that it's the right thing for you to take alongside anything else that you're already taking. I've also spent quite a lot of time working out how I can eat quickly but healthily. So just spending some time on thinking about what your diet is like through the week. I actually worked with a nutritionist a few years ago, and it's really helped me, particularly with perimenopause symptoms, and also to just general wellness, and which obviously is going to feed into preventing anxiety. So sleep, of course, trying to get 8 hours is easier said than done if you are perimenopausal, if you have children, etc. But the more time and effort you can invest into that. Personally, I swear by having a bedtime routine, and just kind of top level on that is trying to stay away from screens, of course, before bed, turning out overhead lights. I have really, really dim lights in my house because the way that your circadian rhythms work is that the more light that gets into your eyes, the more your body thinks that it's time to be awake. So giving yourself a wind down period. But my bedtime routine, I'm going to go into more detail on my retreat, and we're all going to be practicing it. So I'm looking forward to that. Exercise. Whew, can be boring, can be time consuming, and let's face it, it's hard. The main thing that I currently do is a daily 30-minute walk, which seriously does wonders for my general health and anxiety. And also, again, if you can do that in the morning, getting light into the back of the eyes is great for the circadian rhythms. So that's a kind of really high level overview of the things that I've done to tackle anxiety for myself. But there's one thing that I really want to focus on around anxiety is it's my experience that when I have anxiety, it's actually I'm kind of off course. I'm out of myself in some way. I'm focusing on other things. And what my mind and my body and my soul need is for me to come back to myself. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is sometimes anxiety can be us really denying our own needs and denying how we're feeling about something. And that is something, hugely powerful that I've realized over the years. And what I really try to do now is really take time through the day. Like the more anxious I feel, the more I will try and get that to help me to slow down, which sounds wild. It sounds particularly wild if you're, really, really busy. Listen, I'm a busy person. I totally get that you don't always have time for yourself. But what we're talking about here is making time to do that. So the more stressed you feel, the more you should try and put in time for you. So literally, I would say when I'm super stressed, I will get up from my desk at least once an hour and I will go and sit somewhere and I will just go really, really quiet and literally listen to what it is that I feel that I need. It's quite often chocolate, if I'm honest. But I jest, but what I'm trying to say is sitting, maybe breathing, sitting, maybe meditating, sitting, maybe journaling, and just giving yourself that time to be like, you know what do I feel? What do I need right now? And it's something that I think it takes a lot of practice to get into that habit. I'm going to do something on habit change later on in the week, but it's the most powerful practice that I've found for anxiety. I feel that when I'm anxious, it's as if I'm pulled away from myself and I need to come back to myself, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, what I would urge you to do is spend some time every single day sitting in silence and thinking, seeing what comes up in your body, seeing what comes up in your mind is pretty powerful when you start getting into it. So I hope you enjoyed those tips. On my winter retreat, we're going to be working on helping you find those activities that calm and ground you, as well as techniques and workshops for more of that peaceful, blissful feeling that we all need. If you want to know more about that, then stay tuned and make sure you're following me on Instagram at ShineOnTribe. And please hit like and subscribe on this video. If you found it useful, share it with a friend. Thank you.